I apologize. I just got back from the gym, just freshly showered. I do not look put together for a video, but holy... I can't not talk about this. Khelif. Okay. It is driving me crazy. I've been on Twitter all day today, fighting with people. Look at that glorious hair coming right out of the clip. Probably everyone knows about the story of Imane Khelif, okay? If you don't, Imane Khelif is a boxer. Let's just pull up the clip. I'm sure we can find it in like 3 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, another reason to boycott this year's Olympics. A biological male from Algeria who identifies as transgender boxes a woman from Italy. And it doesn't even
imagine having the confidence to just lie, who identifies as transgender. None of that is true. I'm sorry. I'm trying to give you guys like the grounding of what's going on first, and I'm so mad by this first video. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a heartbreaking story where Russian propaganda gets spread out aggressively. Okay. This is Imane Khelif. She's an Algerian boxer. She fought this other who lost. She fought this loser, okay? She fought a girl who lost. But it's gross that Angela Carini potentially contributed. Actually, I don't know her perspective. If this comes out and was like, hey, I was just sad about it, that doesn't mean that like, no, she was saying shit like, I've never been punched that hard in my life. So you, actually.
Hold on, quick update from future Erudite.
Regarding Angela Carini, I said that she's a loser and I don't care about her. While I do think her reaction seemed weird and taking advantage of a bad situation or like bad optics for Imane, she has since issued an apology, basically saying that she was super angry. She was very upset about losing. She said some things that she regrets.
Now back to the first impressions.
And then insisted that Imane just like shouldn't have even been allowed to be there because Imane was banned from an international boxing event 2 years ago. However, oh my God, the shit behind this is fucking crazy. So first of all, my interest got piqued in this because I started seeing people posting about this, saying that she was trans. And so I initially got interested because if you guys are not aware of my perspective on trans women in sports, particularly explosive sports, there's a really good conversation. It's kind of hard to find between me, Jangles, Rose Wrist, where we talk about trans people in sports. I'm sure Sulak will link it for you. You should go watch it if you want to. My position hasn't really changed, mostly because I haven't updated on the science, but it's 2024 and there's a new paper that should be out this year. So I probably will update my perspective pretty soon here. And my perspective was that as it is right now, I don't think trans women should be competing at like these really high level competitions in particularly explosive force sports like fighting, like most of the sports, to be fair, in the Olympics. And the reason for that, you can watch the video if that upsets you, but the reason for that is essentially I don't believe principles of fair play are satisfied. It seems like there are a number of things that confer some level of benefit to trans women, and most importantly to me, also would also therefore confer a disadvantage for trans men, because you never notice trans men destroying the open kind of male-dominated heats. It's just trans women for a reason. This is not about me being pro-trans women in sports. I'm actually against it, except for in like probably for sure junior high and probably high school as well. But I'm open to arguments on either side. I think it's fair to start like capping that a little bit, especially by like grade 11, grade 12. Okay, anyways, now you know my perspective on trans sports. So I don't have a dog in this race, okay? It's interesting to watch. It's an interesting conversation of like, oh, okay, apparently this person might be trans. So I start looking it up today. Anyway, so I see this shit and I start seeing people being like, Khelif isn't even trans. Stop it, Khelif isn't trans. So I start seeing constant posts from conservatives. We've got Bradley Martin saying some stupid shit. Okay, we've got libs of TikTok saying the same stupid shit. Oh, she cried. Try not to cry. She just quit her boxing match after being forced to compete against a man. I'm so conspiracy brain about this right now. It is blowing my brain, and I will tell you why, okay? This shit is crazy, okay? So it's going everywhere. All the conservatives, not all the conservatives, sorry, MAGA retards, and specifically anyone who's a retard, keeps spreading this lie that Imane is a trans woman. And then the record starts getting corrected and people are like, no, she's not, because just so it's clear, she's not. She's from Algeria. She's always been she's always been assigned female, but she's always been noted as a female. She's always competed in female sports her entire life. She did soccer before boxing. Always been a female. I cannot believe she's already made this.
Oh my.
Hey guys, my name is Angela Rojos, and I wanted to share with you how happy I am that the Olympics is maintaining their consistency in the fact that they all have the woke mind virus and
Maybe it's a meme. Maybe she's joking.
there seems to be absolutely no cure. There have been 2 boxers cleared to compete in the women's division at Paris Olympics after gender eligibility questions, IOC says.
Okay, let's get into that, okay? Gender eligibility. When was that question? So Imane's gender eligibility was questioned by the IBA. And you might say, who's the IBA? All right, and I've looked all this stuff up independently. I'm going to be mostly using Hill Lake Physics from the Destiny subreddit. I've also independently verified it all. They just did a good job of putting it all together. The IBA is the International Boxing Association, which is notorious for being corrupted pieces of shit. In fact, they are no longer recognized by the International Olympic Committee as a governing body for boxing, and it was suspended from the federation in large part because of, what was it? We've got, they manipulated events at the 2016 Olympics for money. They opposed independent appointment of judges and referees. They wanted to select their own, they wanted to keep it in-house. They had their sole sponsor. Their main sponsor is a Russian state-owned natural gas company that, by the way, is aggressively for the Ukrainian war. And it gets crazier. The IBA also tried to force a Ukrainian boxer like a couple years ago to not compete under the Ukrainian flag, but they were just going to force the Ukrainian to compete under the IBA flag until the IOC, so IOC Olympics Committee, IBA International Boxing Association, until basically the Olympics Committee told the Boxing Association, they're like, you can't do that. You can't just make this Ukrainian not compete under a Ukrainian flag, which is crazy, okay? When you won't allow somebody to compete under their own flag, it's some level of acknowledgement of you not being a territory. That's why, for example, when like Taiwanese athletes were not allowed to compete under the Taiwanese flag and stuff, it was a big fucking deal. It's very upsetting, okay? And I think it was wrong, just to be clear, okay? The Olympic Committee was like, hey, Jan, you got to let the Ukrainians compete under the Ukrainian flag. And they're like, okay, I guess we'll go back on that. They were also accused by the USA Boxing of sabotaging Olympic qualification pathways. And then it was stripped of its IOC recognition. So essentially, if you compete in IBA games, that will not qualify you necessarily for the Olympics. And most importantly, the IBA does not govern boxing anymore, according to the Olympics. They're no longer recognized. You want to know crazier shit? The owner of the IBA is reported, so could be wrong, to have ties to Putin, but more importantly, moved their headquarters from Sweden to Russia. And they're solely sponsored by a Russian state-owned natural gas company. Okay? So they're making this massive stink, the Russians themselves, okay, about Imane. They're very upset. And the IBA itself is pushing this. They just want to let y'all know. It's important to let y'all know that Imane, it's questionable. So the IBA is the group. The stripped IBA is the group that said that they have questionable gender eligibility. Except Imane, her gender eligibility in the IBA was only questioned right before she was about to run to gold. In fact, God, this is even crazier. She was about to run for gold in an IBA competition. And then all of a sudden, a new test came out that was never disclosed. It was always kept private and confidential that said that Imane failed gender testing. But they said explicitly that it was not her testosterone levels. And then there was some speculation, for example, from a Russian news agency, that it's because Imane had an XY chromosome. But this has been never verified. This isn't verified by anything. And so they apparently had this testing done like a year before the championships. So apparently they tested Imane and they found this XY chromosome a year before she even competed at the World Boxing competition for the IBA. And right before she ran for gold, suddenly, after she's been competing this entire time, suddenly now she's not gender conforming. And they said explicitly it's not about her testosterone. So we have no idea how Imane is not gender eligible. And in fact, part of why the IOC was so mad at the IBA, and part of why they basically said, we don't give a fuck that you rejected these two athletes. They're more than welcome. They satisfy our gender standards, is because the IBA has the most arbitrary standards. In fact, even better, if you just go to the wiki page, if you actually, here, I'll even pull it up. Here's the original IBA report. I'm not going to go through everything. I will link it though. Okay, I'll send it to Sulak to link for you guys. But basically, it was proposed to ratify the decision about basically allowing Imane to compete by a test conducted in an independent laboratory, and it was made by the Secretary General and the CEO to disqualify them. They didn't even fucking tell their board. In fact, they just like went to the board of the IBA and they're like, hey, heads up, we're going to disqualify these two people. And the board was like, why is this being brought up at the end of the championships? You know, isn't it weird that we let them compete their entire way through? And they're like, you know, it was done right at the request of the technical delegate, except hold on. They said the testing later was done in 2022. This is 2023. So was the testing done in 2022? Was the testing done right before the gold? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Sounds like you're fucking lying. In fact, they confirmed that similar testing was conducted in 2022. However, the results received were only received upon the conclusion of the event. Hence, so it was done in 2022, but your independent lab just couldn't get you the results for a year right before the gold. Damn. Get a new independent lab. You got to fire those people, okay? That's a bad time to run. My blood tests in Canada get back to me faster than that shit. And it's public health care. We're slow on everything. And I'm a healthy young buck. They don't speed my shit up. I am so mad at the misinformation and all of these crazy end wokeness. All these end wokeness clown world lives of TikTok. They all came out with the exact same story about the biological male shit, like within hours of each other. Like bang, bang, bang. No corrections. It has been crazy, crazy. All of a sudden, the legitimacy of her sex, not even her gender, her sex is under question, but she's been competing for years. And it's not like she has this crazy track record. It's not like she's got like 14 fights with 14 wins. She's got 9 wins and like 6 or 5 losses or something. She's got like, from my understanding, a decently standard boxing career. She's, you know, a talented boxer, whatever. And the fight with the Italian lady isn't even like the most important fight. It was just the second round. There's at least a third round before like finals and medals and stuff are given out. It literally just doesn't matter. And then all the rightists just started screaming about how Imane's trans, which is also not true. And they're like, it's not transphobic to question somebody's gender. It's transphobic to assume that she's trans when there's no good evidence for that whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. And then to insist that because she's trans, she wants to beat up women. That just is transphobic. It's so annoying. God, I am this like Russian propaganda rabbit hole is wild. I don't know if I buy into like all of the bot fake people shit. I think what's happening though is that there are a number. Oh, I recently found out about like I can't name any names, but like a conservative getting like offered an all expense paid trip to Moscow and shit. And it's like, okay, this is crazy. Like, it's uncanny that this narrative that is being pushed first and foremost by Russian agencies, her question of her gender at all is run by largely a fully stripped Russian boxing association. And then suddenly all of just these other right-wingers just pick it up. I'm not saying that they're all paid. I think they're just stupid. And it's at this point in time, the Russian propaganda has realized who will bite their shit. Some of them are probably paid, but I'm going to guess a lot of them have just jumped on the bandwagon, A, because they believe it, because they just don't want to check their sources. And then B, they don't care about their sources. They don't care about being wrong. They just want to defeat the enemy. And you might be like, the left is just as bad at that. You know, the left also wants to defeat its enemy. You're right, which is why I fight against leftists all the time. It's why people thought I was conservative for a while, because I'm so annoyed with leftists. Trump and JD Vance have now retweeted and spoken openly, just lying again about, and this is like hours after it's been cleared up. We know now that she's not a trans person. And JD Vance posted very recently, yeah, right here, 7 hours ago, more than enough time to Google it. You could just look it up. Check with your staff to Google it, perhaps. You could do anything. You could just do anything. Literally one quick Google immediately shows it's not clear that they're trans. Might be an androgynous, like some sort of like sexual development disorder. Might be nothing. Maybe, just maybe. Imane's just an unfortunately very ugly woman. That literally might be it. Which I can't imagine being Imane Khelif. She was so pissed after the IBA shit where they tried to strip her. She was like, what the fuck, man? Now she just has a bunch of like people on Twitter screaming about how she's a dude. And she's just like, man, come on. Like, I'm just not very attractive. Like, gosh, this poor woman. Like, holy shit. I feel so bad for her. Her greatest crime is having short hair, little breast development, and beating a sore loser. And she's contributed to all this because she insisted that Imane hit like a man, that she's never been punched that before like that ever. She was like called off the fight itself because she was like, I couldn't breathe. I was winded. And it's like, girl, maybe don't pull out the trans card as a cope for losing. I'm just so annoyed. I'm just so fucking annoyed. Especially because when I first saw this getting posted, I held off on correcting the record. I was like, are they trans? I don't really trust the people insisting that she's trans, but I'm still gonna look into it. So I looked into it a bunch and I was like, doesn't seem like that's the case. And then I looked further into it and I'm like, we have no evidence of anything. We don't even have evidence of high tea. Literally none of it. And people are like, but isn't it fair to talk about fair play? It's like, yeah, if it's relevant. If her tea isn't even high, then no, you're just being an asshole. The most crazy shit about this whole Imane stuff is it doesn't matter what you say. People are just like, they'll be like, actually, there's like no evidence she's a man and she's always been stated. And or apparently some people come forward claiming her birth certificate shows us she's a woman. Haven't seen that, to be clear. They're like, doesn't matter. She's a man. And like, look, she's even sitting like a man. And you're like, okay. Okay, we have lost the plot, folks. Bye. Oh, and follow me on Twitter. Oh, and if you want more, join my Patreon. There's lots of new stuff getting posted there. If you like my content and you like specifically my way of thinking about stuff, you get blessed with my ugly horse chore, no makeup face. So enjoy that. Also, don't forget to subscribe, become a member. And if you have a Prime account, do consider giving me on Twitch your Twitch Prime. Big hugs, big kisses. Think well. I hope you enjoy this additional bonus content. 'Cause I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. So, bye.